let's talk about socialism. Now, socialism might be one of the most used and least understood words of the moment. Some people praise it, some fear it, others despise it. But how many can define it? Could it be that one of the reasons why socialism is such a trigger word is that we're all thinking of different things when we use it? Tell me, when you think of socialism, do you think of Denmark or Venezuela? Do you think of Stalin or Sanders? What about FDR, though? The truth is that none of those answers are really wrong, but neither of them offer the full picture either. So, as always, let's start with the basics. Socialism is both economic and political. The most important thing to understand is that socialism is an economic system where the public owns the means of production. That's it, okay? Remember that. So traditionally, this means resources like the land, physical machinery, and the factories used to produce goods. But it can also include publicly owned companies. They're called state-owned enterprises. Or social ownership can also mean that the government takes a more active role in controlling the market to varying degrees. So if you think of like a spectrum, okay, I'm gonna put my hands within the camera, with extreme capitalism, a completely free, unregulated market on one end, and then communism, or like total state control and ownership over every aspect of economic life on the other end, then socialism could be just about anything in between, depending on who you ask. Are you with me? Because socialism is also a political philosophy with, again, various degrees of expression. Revolutionary socialism emphasizes the struggle between the working and the ownership classes of society and calls for a revolutionary overthrow of the social order. The version you're more likely to hear about today is democratic socialism, which aims for reform rather than revolution and supports ideas like universal access to public benefits like healthcare and education, and policies that protect workers. So the revolutionary brand of socialism was pretty much defeated in the 20th century, and today most nations are capitalist in some way or another. The central debate now is to what extent do we use socialist principles to regulate the free market? Let me give you an example. Social Security. When any of us start working and making money, a portion of our salary is taken out and paid into this National Social Security Fund. The money is invested, so the fund grows over time, and it provides us with an income after we retire. Today, Social Security is a basic expectation from participating in the workforce. But when Franklin Delano Roosevelt first introduced it to Americans in the 1930s, he was crucified by critics and accused of making America socialist. Social Security is a socialist principle. It's managed by the government. But I think you'd have a hard time finding anyone who would refer to the United States as a socialist country. So this whole thing gets confusing because everyone has their own personal limits on what is an acceptable level of government involvement and what policy goes too far. It's safe to say that most Americans support free K-12 education, but people have differing views on whether or not college should be taxpayer funded. So, all of this is to say that the next time you hear someone cry, "Socialist!" press them to clarify what it is that they mean. What is it about that particular politician or policy that makes it or them socialist? Do they view socialism as an ideology that is inherently good or evil? Or do they understand it correctly as a spectrum of ideas and economic policies? That's my challenge for you today. Think about that, and let's see where the conversation takes you. Because any productive conversation has to start with a basic understanding of what we're all talking about.